Hi, my name is Peggy and this is my channel, Bespoke Ability Sewing. Today I am back with my second garment from my Make 9 2024. This is my first year doing a Make 9 and I'm focusing on fabrics from my stash that I've just been bypassing for one reason or another for years. And so far, of course, granted, this is only my second garment from my Make 9, but I feel like it's motivating me to do something with these fabrics. So today I am wearing my second garment and I just love this fabric. This is all I have left. This is fabric for daydreamers. It's called Garden Gloss from the Wishwell Collection by Robert Kaufman. Now, I bought this at Hart's Fabrics in Santa Cruz, California, I think 3 years ago. And when I got it, there wasn't much summer left, and I was thinking fall and winter. And I just never got around to it last summer, but I was determined to do something with it this year. And now this is seasonally inappropriate. I am wearing it right now because I took photographs, but I am not going to wear this out and about for several months because there's snow outside. It's cold. No, just not going to. But for right now, it's fine. So what I did, like last week, I revisited a pattern or patterns. This is a mashup of two patterns. The main one is this one, which is Simplicity 8601. I more or less did what the model is wearing, except I changed the sleeves. Now, I also added length to the bodice, but it looks like that. It's just that I'm tall, so I needed some length. Now, in the past, I have made this pattern 3 times. The first time was when this pattern came out, which might have been 2019. And I made it for my daughter. I made it sleeveless and I lined it. I used the burrito method and that turned out well, but I didn't really use the right fabric. I used a pretty hefty, bouncy cotton gauze and it was just too thick to line. I mean, it worked well. It looked good, and if I can find a picture, I'll put it up. But it wasn't a whole success. And then I put the pattern away and we came to it last summer where I used 2 pieces of rayon challis at different times to make the top. And I lined the bodice, not the sleeves. And for those tops and for this top, I used this pattern, which is the Atelier Jupe Zoey blouse. And I used this sleeve to which I added a little length and I changed, this has a hemband and I used bias tape and elastic, personal preference. And so what I did was I took the sleeve cap from here and then on a piece of tracing paper, I traced out the sleeve cap and then added this sleeve to the rest of it. But it worked out really well and I've now used this sleeve on several things. I like it because yes, there is some puff, but it's not crazy puffy. I don't know, a puff sleeve makes me feel like I'm about 6. And I'm not. I'm 65. But this, I like this. In fact, I like this blouse too. I'll probably give it a try. The only reason I haven't made this, to tell you the truth, is that for some reason, Atelier Jupe prints their pattern pieces on both sides of the paper. So you can't cut it out. You have to trace it. So you're not saving any paper. You have to trace it. You can't use what they send you. And I'm just not a big fan of tracing. So I did trace out the sleeve, but that was one piece. I just haven't traced out the rest of the blouse. And then I also don't know if this is too low for me or not, but I might try it and see. At any rate, this fabric sewed up great. It's a cotton lawn, and I just love the colors in it. I think it's really happy and summery, and I can envision wearing this with a pair of white jeans and some sandals. Not right now because there's snow on the ground and it's cold. So I'm only wearing this now because I took pictures and I'm talking to you. But other than that, it's going to go back in my closet for a few months. So I sewed everything on my machine, and then well, actually, let me backtrack. Before I sewed everything on my machine, I finished all raw edges on, or what would be raw edges, on my serger without cutting off any fabric. So there's a front seam, a back seam, and 2 side seams, shoulder seams, and all that. And so I finished all of those ahead of time so that once I sewed this on my machine, I could just press open the seams and they would be finished. And that worked well. Now, I didn't do the top of the arm, the sleeve piece, because I felt that would be too bulky to have the arm side area finished and the sleeve area finished and then have that seam allowance just hanging there. So I just waited and did that all at once. The only hand sewing on this is the button. So this closes with it's got a keyhole opening in the back, and then it closes with a button and loop. The button is from my mother's stash, and I think it was a singleton. I don't think she has any others like it or had any others like it, but it's pink, and I'll put up a picture of it. And then for the loop, it calls for elastic cording. And I've had iffy success with that. If I'm super careful and make sure the tiny pieces of cording are each punctured well by my needle, then it probably will stay. But I thought I had done that with one of my tops last summer, but I hadn't, apparently, because it pulled out and it was annoying, but I fixed it. So at any rate, I didn't particularly want to use cording again. So I decided, and as you can see, I didn't have fabric to make a matching bias cut loop, or not even bias cut. So I decided to use elastic. I have some 1/4 inch white elastic, and I was just afraid that would be too much of a contrast, like really kind of pop out. So I thought I had a Sharpie pen, which is a permanent, like a permanent felt marker. And I thought I had one in royal blue, but I thought, well, I can color the elastic and that will just blend in with this well enough that I don't think it'll be noticeable. Well, I don't seem to have the pen anymore. I bet it probably was just really old and got thrown away, but so I used this, which is silver or gray, and I cut out, it calls for a 2-inch piece of elastic for the button loop, and I cut out 3 inches and then went in a 1/2 inch on each side and marked my 2-inch total with my friction pen. And then I taped that to a piece of cardboard and colored it with the Sharpie, and then I turned it over and did the other side. And that worked out really well. I'll put up a picture of what the button and button loop look like. I don't know that you can really see it all that much, but that's kind of my hope, is that it just blends in, but isn't quite as in your face as the white. So let's see, is there anything else I've done differently? Oh, the hem facing, yeah. So this calls just to have I think a 5/8 inch hem at the bottom. And I've never done that because I've lined all my previous versions. And I like to line it for 3 reasons, probably. 1, it's very easy. And 2, you see the right side of the fabric regardless of how the bow is tied. And 3, I just like the finish. So I thought, well, I will do a facing, a hem facing, and I had just enough fabric to cut out a hem facing. I traced from the bodice front and back, I traced the bottom and it's fairly deep because it has to go up above where the slit is in front that allows the tie. And I finished the raw edges of that with my serger before I sewed it. And then it went in easily, and I trimmed everything, turned it, pressed it. And then there are, as I've mentioned, there are 4 main seams in this: center front, center back, and the 2 side seams. So for both the neck facing and for the hem facing, I stitched in the ditch at those 4 seams, and it seems to be holding it just fine. I don't need to, I was planning to go in and hand sew around the facings, but I don't seem to need to, so I can always go back and do that if I do feel insecure. So the only hand sewing on this is the button. And yeah, I think maybe I didn't mention I did the neck facing, which comes with this pattern, but it was my first time using it. I interfaced it, finished the raw edges, and went in fine, went in easily. The only thing to be aware of this, on this, which I'm sure you've run into on many things before, I know I have, but at the bottom of the keyhole opening, or at the top of the front slit where the pieces come together to make the tie, you just have to be careful how you sew that so that you can still flatten it out. Like there's a dot at the center on both of these pieces, and you sew to that but not through it, and then when you flip it, you should be okay. But it worked really well, and I like it, and I'm so pleased to get another piece out of my stash. And I love this fabric, so I think I will enjoy wearing it. And I should have put up some photos by now. If not, I'll do it now, but they should have already gone up. And it's great. I love it. Now, I hope you will come back on Friday. I should be here for another Friday Sews. And also next Tuesday, I plan to be back with my next installment of Make 9 2024. That's my garment number 3. I'm not exactly sure what it's going to be. I have 2 ideas that I'm debating in my head, but I'm going to make a decision and get moving on one of them. At any rate, thank you so much for joining me today. Let me know what you're up to, and I will see you on Friday. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.